Hello, and I am back, as I promised, to do another video, this time for the green cards coming out in New Capenna, or Streets of New Capenna. So let's just go ahead and jump right in, because so far nobody's actually joined while I've actually been live streaming, so we'll just go ahead and just start. Give me just a second here. Alright, here we go. Attended Socialite. For mana cost of 2, it has Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 till end of turn. It's not horrible. It could have some potential. I mean, it might see some play, but I don't think it's going to be people's top #1 choice. Moving on to Bootlegger Stash. Now, this costs 6 to play. It's an artifact, and lands you control have tap, create a treasure token. This is going to see play. I definitely think this is going to be seeing lots of play with green players. Basically, it makes every land tappable. At the end of your turn, or at the end of your opponent's turn, you're going to want to tap all your lands, making treasure tokens, saving up all that mana for... So, I mean, basically doubling your mana on your next turn. They're perfect for sacrificing artifacts. This goes with a lot of cards that we've previously seen. I definitely think this is going to be one of the ones that is going to be the most desired green card. Yeah, true, it costs 6, but you got cards like green, blue, red decks are going to love this card, because there's ways to make artifacts cheaper. So there's also a lot of ways to create treasure tokens already. This is going to make that just bonkers. So moving on to Bouncer's Beatdown. For 3 mana, it's an instant. This spell costs 2 less if you target a black permanent. It deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. If that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it. So I definitely think this might see some play, but I think we have better cards currently in Standard. We'll have to see how the meta changes after September. So, moving on, we have Attended Socialite. Broken Wings. Sorry, I was reading the one above it. Broken Wings. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. We have a lot of these, and I think they might see some play. But then we have Rocket Raccoon. Cabriti Initiate. It's a raccoon citizen. For white or red and 2 others, it can gain double strike till end of turn. It's a 1-drop for greens, so I think this might see some play. Definitely in a green-red deck. Green-red-white. Definitely this is something you're going to want. I mean, it's a really nice drop. And then the fact that later on you can be giving it double strike. Moving into the next one, we have Caldea Strong Arm. For 5 mana, when it enters the battlefield, put 2 1/1 counters on target creature. For 4 mana, you can blitz it, which basically will mean that when it enters, it gains haste, but also gains when it dies, you draw a card, and you have to sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So, yeah, I think that'll work well with like a green-black deck, as I've been saying, but it's probably not going to be the first pick. But it definitely might end up in one of those decks. Next, we have Capenna Express. For 4 mana, sacrifice a treasure. Capenna Express becomes an artifact creature till end of turn. Or you can crew it with 3. It's a 6/6. This might see some play in a vehicle deck. It depends on whether or not you want to crew it or turn it into a creature. If you have the treasure tokens, but there's other ways around this, like paying mana with recent land that we got in the last set. So it's a good bulky. It doesn't really do much except for being a 6/6 for 4. So next up we have Civic Gardener. For 2 mana, he is a human citizen. Whenever he attacks, untap target creature or land. And I think that is part of a combo that we were talking about. But he has to attack in order to do that, so I could see it getting some play. Definitely. And it would definitely work well with that artifact earlier that makes all land tap and gives all land the ability to tap and add a treasure token. So next up for 6 mana we have Cleanup Crew. Human citizen, 6/6. When it enters the battlefield, you can destroy an artifact, destroy an enchantment, or exile a target card from a graveyard, or gain 4 life. I don't see this getting a whole lot of play. If you're running a citizen deck, this would probably be your last pick. It is good for the fact that you could, when it comes in, you can destroy an artifact or an enchantment. Exiling a single card from a graveyard, unless there's an annoying card in your opponent's graveyard, that's probably the least enticing ability. Maybe if you got to choose 2 of these, that would be better. But you only get to choose 1. And of course, gain 4 life. I mean, there's 1-drops that give you 3 life. So gaining 4 life and getting a 6/6 hardly seems like something you're really going to want to do. When for 6 mana, you could be making tons and tons of treasure tokens. So, not the best, not the worst, but I don't think it's going to see a lot of play in Standard or even in anything else. I mean, like I said, it's just much better. These are the kind of cards I look at and I'm like, why did you waste time? You know, I actually have an idea for a couple ideas for some sets. Like, I would love to see a set where every single card just about makes your opponent second guess their every move. You know, black spells. When your opponent plays a creature, they have to discard or sacrifice a creature. Or whenever they play an instant or a sorcery, they have to discard a card. You know, if you had both of those cards out on the field, now your opponent's locked into a corner where they can't, you know, they can't summon anything or they're going to lose something. And they can't play anything to stop that or they have to discard something. And they could even bring back the one that says, you know, whenever an opponent attacks you with a creature, they pay a life. That would limit, oh wow, hitting all three. Um, for white, they could have, when your opponent summons a creature, you gain a life. When your opponent plays a instant or sorcery, this happens. There's so much you could do with it. And I would just love to see a set come out that would be like that. I'd also like to see a set come out that's just balls to the wall crazy, where nothing is as it seems. Nothing is, there was this thing a while back ago that they did for Magic where they held a contest for people to design cards and become a card designer for this game. And I actually entered, and I made it past the first round and got to the second round. But then I was kicked out of that one because I guess my stuff wasn't good enough. But I had presented an idea where, you have certain cards that do like these certain things. And I had, talked about this previously. You could probably see the video on my personal channel where you got all these different crazy cards. And people kept telling me, oh, well, there's a color pie. The colors mean something. Certain colors will do certain things. And then I'm like, okay, I get that. I understand the color pie. I know the color pie. But the entire point of this entire set would have been sort of a Wonderland type set. Where up is down, down is up, right is left, that kind of stuff. So here, burn is not in red. Red might be growth in what green normally is, whereas green in this world would be death, and black would be life, and water would be burn. They're completely switched around. And white would be the color of growth. So that was my idea. And either I'd like to see them fuse the ideas or preferably just go off. Because, icy cold water will hurt you. That was one of the things. I had a blue instant that deals like 2 damage to target creature. They say you can drown in a bowl of water. So, but moving on, let's get back to this. Carrier's Briefcase costs 2. It's an artifact treasure. When it enters the battlefield, create a citizen token. You can sacrifice it, add 1 color of any mana to your mana pool. Or you can pay 5, sacrifice it, and draw 3 cards. I think that'll probably see some play. I could see that being used. Especially in a treasure-heavy deck. Next up, we have Elegant Entourage. So, it has Alliance whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control. Target creature other than this card gets +1/+1 and gains trample till end of turn. That might see some play, but being it's not a counter, and the 1/1 goes away, and the trample goes away, it would really depend. Depend on what kind of deck someone's building. If they're specifically building an Alliance deck, then that might at least get one of them in there. But I think there's other better Alliance cards we've gotten, so. Next up, we have Evolving Door for 3 mana. Sacrifice a creature, count the colors of the sacrificed creature, then search your library for a creature card that's exactly the same amount of colors, +1. Exile that card, then shuffle. You may cast the exiled card, activate only as a sorcery. So it's kind of like a level up. Sack a creature who's just sacrifice a creature. If it's one color, you can search for a 2-color. If it's 2 colors, now you can search for a 3, 4, or 5, whatever. Just one more than whatever it was. But basically, you're paying one extra because I think you still have, you still have to pay that much to get the creature. So you guys still have to cast it like with the mana. So, but you're one searching and sacrificing to do all that. So there's that card, that ability. Fight rigging for 3 mana, enchantment, hideaway. At the beginning of your combat, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Then, if you control a creature with power of 7 or greater, you may play the exile card without paying its mana cost. This, I think, will see some play, but you're probably going to win. It's probably going to be used a lot. I think a lot of these hideaways are going to be used heavily with scry abilities. So, and people are going to wait to see if they got a card coming up that they want to use it with. Thing is, though, problem with these hideaways is if you don't have it right off at, like, for instance, this one is at the beginning of combat. If you don't have this at the beginning of combat, your opponent can easily just play something, destroy the enchantment, and you just lose the card forever. So there's always that risk too. Next up we have For the Family, 1-drop green. Target creature gets +2/+2 till end of turn. If you control 4 or more creatures, that creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn instead. This is definitely a good one for green. I have a couple ideas of decks that I would definitely use this in, so I definitely think this is one that's going to definitely see a lot of standard play, especially since it's an instant. So next up we have Freelance Muscle for 5. It's a 4/4 Rhino Warrior. Whenever it attacks or blocks, it gets +X/+X, where X is the greatest power among and or toughness among other creatures you control. I think that'll see some play. A lot of people will probably give it trample because it's going to become like instantly probably like a 6/6 or a 7/7. So I definitely see that getting a lot of play. Next up, and by the way, if you are enjoying these, please let me know if there's anything you want me to change or do differently in the future. Let me know. I really wanted to try doing this. I'm really trying to do a good job here for you guys. I just need feedback. Let me know how I'm doing, what you want to see, what you don't want to see. But moving on. So we have Gala Greeters for 2. It's an elf druid. It is a 1/1. It's a rare. It has Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. You can give it a 1/1 counter. You can create a tapped treasure token, or you can gain 2 life. So for 3 times throughout the turn, this ability will trigger. I'm guessing after 3, you don't get any more of the effect. So next up we have Monger, and I do think Gala Greeters will probably see a lot of play in Alliance decks. Next up, Monger. For 4 mana, it's a 1/4. Tap, create a treasure token. I think that's a little weak. It should have been like a 2-drop. It's basically got defense and tap, make a token. I don't understand why making it a 4-drop because because it's a 4-drop, I don't think it's going to get a lot of play. I could be wrong, but I mean, if I were building a deck, I wouldn't pick it because it's too high cost. And it's not like its defense is really that good when I can find cheaper cards that are just as good or better. So, moving on to High Rise Sawjack. For 3 mana, it has reach. It's a 2/3. Whenever it blocks a creature with flying, it gets +2/+0 till end of turn. So it can become a 4/3 if it blocks a flyer. So already that costs less to bring out, and it's better than the Monger. Next off, we have Jewel Thief. Vigilance, trample. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. A 3/3. Even that's better than Monger. I don't know. Keep writing that, but next off we have Luxurious Liberation. 1 green and X. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn. Create a citizen token. So you get a dude, and you get to beef up a guy. I think that'll see some play. Now we have Most Wanted. For 3 mana, it's got Flash, so it's an enchantment that's like an instant. Enchanted creature gets +2/+1. When enchanted creature dies, create 2 treasure tokens. So this is another one I think is really going to go a lot with those Blitz cards. Moving on, we have Prize Fight. Instant. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Create a treasure token. I know that's going to see a lot of play. It's probably going to see a lot of play from me. I've got some decks that I'll love to incorporate that. Although we haven't gotten very many cheap Death Touch creatures lately. So next off we have Rox Plummeter. Or Plumer. For 6 mana, it's a 6/3. When it enters the battlefield, it enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. As it has trample as long as it has the shield counter on it. So, that's nice. It's not going to be my top pick. I don't even know if I would use it, to tell you the truth. Like I said, this might be good in a modification deck. But that's about the only thing I can think of. Next off, we have Riveters Decoy. For 1 green, 1 colorless. It must be blocked if able. It has Blitz 3. So this would go really well with Most Wanted. Because then you can make it attack. It gains haste. And they have to block it. And then, when they do, and it dies, you get to draw 1 card and create 2 treasure tokens. So I think that'll really, really do well. Next off, we have Social Climber with Alliance. When another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life. Why? Okay, because it's a 3/2. I was gonna say why, but the power and toughness, I guess. We've had this card before. It's been usually on 1/1s or 1/4s or 2/2s. Now we got it on a 3/2. That's a 3-drop. So we are gonna lose some of the cards that are like this in September, but yeah, let's just throw another one onto the pile. Take to the Streets for 5 mana. Creatures you control get +2/+2 till end of turn. Citizens you control get an additional +1/+1.5 Vigilance till end of turn. I could see this getting some play in the right kind of deck. There are a few decks that might want to utilize this card. Like some decks I was talking about yesterday. So now moving on, we have Titan of Industry. For 7 mana, you get a 7/7 with Reach and Trample. When it enters the battlefield, you choose 2. Destroy an artifact or enchantment. Target player gains 5 life. Create a 4/4 green Rhino creature token. Put a shield counter on a creature you control. I definitely see this getting some play somewhere. It's probably not going to be like in every deck, but it'll probably see some play. Moving on, we have Caldea Stomper. For 3 mana, it's a plant dinosaur with Vigilance. It's a 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land. Put that onto the battlefield, tapped, and shuffle. This card can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands. I think that'll see some play. It'll definitely replace the grizzly bear from Kaladesh, when that goes out. And that costs 4 and lets you find a basic snowland. So I definitely think Stomper will see some action. Venom Connoisseur. For 2 mana, it's a human druid. When another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Venom Connoisseur gains Death Touch until end of turn. If this is the second time this ability has resolved, all creatures you control gain Death Touch. I can see that gaining some deck usage. Definitely. Moving on, we have Vivian on the Hunt. +2, sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature card with a mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrifice creature's mana value. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Or you can mill 5 cards. Then you put any number of creature cards milled this way into your hand. And her minus is a -1. Create a 4/4 green Rhino creature token. Alright. I mean, she's a little on the more expensive side, so, yeah. Down to the last 3 for green. Voice of the Vermin. For 4 mana, it's a human citizen. Voice of the Vermin enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. It's a 2/2. When it attacks, target creature you control has a base power of 4/4 until end of turn. So you can make one of your weaker dudes stronger, or you can make him stronger. turning him into a 4/4. Next off, we have Warm Welcome for 3 mana. It's an instant. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card among them. Put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Create a citizen token. I think that'll see some play. It's definitely workable. I mean, it lets you look at the top 5, search for, basically, pick a creature, get that creature in your hand, and it saves the others by putting them on the bottom of your library. Plus, it gives you a creature right off the bat. I mean, that's basically draw, get a creature. So, yeah, I mean, that's perfect for the mana cost. And our last green for now is Workshop Warchief. For 5 mana, he is a Rhino Warrior who's a 5/3. Okay, he's got Blitz, so that's already a good thing in the right deck. He's also got Trample. When he enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. When he dies, you get a 4/4 green Rhino token. I mean, come on, right there. Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, his Blitz is 6, but you're getting a 4/4 and you're gaining life. And he can attack right away. And if you do one of the things I mentioned earlier, you're going to be getting a lot more. So, this is definitely weird because, I mean, this is a set that's trying to work with itself, but it does real heavily. Like, Kamigawa, you could basically build decks with Kamigawa, and you didn't really need a lot of other cards from other sets. There's a lot that works in this that really revolves around the other sets. I don't know if they did that on purpose. But while we're talking about green, I'm going to go ahead and skip through this. And I'm going to just talk about lands. Because we got quite a few. And I don't want the next one's going to be multicolored in artifacts. So we got Botanical Plaza, enters tapped. You can make a white or a green, or you can pay 4 mana, sacrifice it, draw a card. Might see play. I don't think it will, but I wouldn't play it. Broker's Hideout, when it enters the battlefield, sacrifice it. When you do, search your library for basic forest, plains, or island. Put it into the battlefield tapped. Then shuffle you, and you gain a life. So it's basically a search land, and it gives you a life. It seems we're going to have one for each trio set. Because we got Carabatory Courtyard, which does the same thing for mountains, forest, or plains. Then you gain a life. We got Maestr's Theater, which does the same thing for swamp, islands, and mountain. Got Obscura Storefront, which does the same for white, blue, and black. Over here you got Jetmir's Garden, which enters tapped or has cycling for 3, so you basically discard it and draw a card, and it can make one of these 3, a forest, a mountains, or a plains. Got Racer's Ring, which can make a green or a red. You can pay 4 mana, sacrifice it, draw a card. So a lot of these are going to basically be the same. The Raffine's Tower makes white, blue, or black. Riveters Overlook can search you out a swamp, mountain, or forest. There's gonna be one for every, trio. And it looks like all these ones, the towers, or these common ones, are gonna be tap 4 mana, sack it, draw. Or it enters tapped, and it can make one of 3. So, but that is going to end this live stream. I hope this was helpful. I hope maybe I gave you guys some good ideas, and you're looking forward to when the set does come out, and we can sit down and I can show you some decks and new designs maybe. So, with that said, I'll catch you in the next live stream later tonight or tomorrow, where I will go over the final bit with multicolored and artifacts. If you have not, please consider subscribing to this channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.